Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Hospitable Hosts podcast. Today I am speaking with Mike Anderson, co-founder of Breezy Beach Stays Property Management and also a licensed mortgage loan officer. Mike is a customer on Hospitable's Miracle Plan, and we're going to be learning a bit more about his journey to scaling to 50 plus properties under management. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Okay, hello, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, Miles.
Cool. So, Michael, to get started, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about you and your business.
Yeah, sure. My name is Mike Anderson. My partner and I own a short-term rental company called Breezy Beach Stays. We're located in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, the Jersey Shore. I'm from here. I grew up in this area, so it fits my passion of real estate, my passion for operations and customer service. Combined with something I know and enjoy doing.
Nice, yeah. And so, obviously, for those that don't know, you are managing, I think, 50 plus vacation rentals while also being a licensed mortgage loan officer. How did those two worlds kind of come together? And, how did you merge real estate finance with property management as well?
Yeah. So I got into just general real estate investing about 5 years ago, and I took a liking to the lending side, the mechanics of leveraging other people's money, and how do you do that, and how do you structure a loan so you can benefit with minimal money out of pocket. And I used that strategy to successfully scale my own portfolio. So it was more having an understanding and then wanting to become a licensed real estate professional on the lending side to help other people achieve those goals and advise them.
Nice, that makes a lot of sense. So, digging into that kind of, I guess, financing vacation homes and thinking about helping others, what do you think is the most misunderstood part of getting a short-term rental loan today?
Well, I think, the secret's kind of out, but the part that people aren't really realizing is how easy they are to finance, which I didn't even really realize. DSCR loans have become so popular. All lenders are pretty much on board now for lending specifically on short-term rental data. I think the problem a lot of people used to have maybe 5 years ago, I haven't even been in the business that long, but was when the DSCR products were coming up, the long-term rents did not support what it could make as a short-term rental. So, banks weren't as favorable to lending, but now lenders have gotten very aggressive with underwriting these deals based on short-term rental data. So I think they just need to understand that. I tell people you need a credit score and a down payment. That's it. We'll take care of the rest. It's all about how the property performs, asset-based lending. So I think that's really an important thing that people should realize. It's really not as unattainable as you might think.
Nice, okay. And so obviously, as you kind of mentioned there, I think property performance super important. So for someone that's kind of thinking about financing their first vacation rental, what are some maybe the early red flags that they should be looking out for before they're making an offer on a property?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is to understand that in this business, you're more in the hospitality business than you are in the real estate business. And when people in my market say, how much would this property make? I say, well, it can make anywhere between 50,000 and 150,000 because it really depends on the host. We have properties that we've taken over for clients and we've almost doubled their income just by making a few tweaks. So I think when you're underwriting a deal, typically when we purchase properties in this market, the agent will be advertising the previous rental revenue, which is usually about half of what we can do or 2/3 of what we can do. So they'll say, oh, make 65,000 a year. I say, well, we're going to buy it and we're going to do 100 a year on it. So I think, really just look at it for, you have to understand that you're operating a business. Make sure you're in a market that's going to let you play that game, that's going to let you operate as you want to. So that's probably something to look out for.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. And then would love to kind of switch gears a little bit and then kind of look more at the property management side of things. So obviously, fast growing business, 50 plus properties. What would you say has been kind of the biggest bottleneck to growing your property count to that high, and how did you solve it?
Yeah. Um, so I had known from the beginning that I needed to build a scalable product, even from having my very first rental. So I dipped my toes in the business buying a short-term rental for myself. My
Mm-hmm.
partner bought a short-term rental for himself, and we said, "Hey, is
Mm-hmm.
this something that we could do at scale?" So, I think the bottlenecks are just getting out of the do-it-yourself. Um, everything I did, even with 1 to 2 properties, I said, well, how would this work if I had 100? And I
Yeah.
applied that thinking in everything I did. When you get a booking, come in, yeah, sure, you can text the cleaner on your phone and say, hey, can you clean this day at this time? That just doesn't work at scale. So I started thinking about that very early on, which I think is really important.
So I'd love to actually kind of just think about that a little bit more in terms of kind of scaling operationally and kind of automating more things. You're obviously a hospitable subscriber, so we'd love to understand, I guess, what does your tech stack look like today, and how vital is some of that automation in scaling your property count?
Yeah, automation is everything. Obviously, huge hospitable fan. Even, like I said before, how you manage one property is how you manage 100 properties. So I knew that it was important to have that core PMS software, and it happened to be hospitable. I had heard good things about it. It was the best priced, which played into it, easiest to get started on. So it had that very easier barrier to entry, and it was also scalable. So I really liked that about it. But since growing, to really, once you hit that, I think that 10 property mark, you really need to build out your tech stack. Love Turno, love it. It manages all my cleaning scheduling. It manages my cleaner payouts. It's free when you have a hospitable subscription. It's great. Um, I use a project management tool called ClickUp, which I live and die by. We started using it about a year ago, and we spent a significant amount of time building that out to work how we want. It really gives us full control over our business. When this happens. We built in um, safeguards so nothing falls through the crack. Right? If a same day booking comes in, we're referencing other tools through Zapier and Make to make sure the property's clean, to make sure the operations team's getting a message. Um, it's just crucial. It's a lot of work, but it allows you to build your operation like you want it to operate, and it's a one of a kind thing. Other than that, I'm using um, Quo, which used to be OpenPhone for messaging. That integrates
Mm-hmm.
pretty well, and that's really I guess that's really it. I spend most of my time in ClickUp. I'm not, just by the nature of it, Hospitable kind of does its thing. My customer service team runs the messages. I pop in and out of there, but most of our day to day happens in ClickUp.
Nice. And this might be a very difficult question for you, but imagine you could only automate one part of the business to save you time.
Oh
What
yeah.
do you think that would be? So imagine all the other automation was gone and you could only automate one piece. What would it be?
Oh geez, it would probably be the cleaning, the
Mm,
cleaning scheduling.
okay.
Um, look, that's a loaded question, right?
I know.
Because look, I mean, you have to automate your channels. Pricing. I would say the core. Honestly, yeah, you can't operate without that. Calendar sync and pricing sync. That's
Yeah.
number one, because you can schedule cleaners yourself. You can send messages yourself, but the core functionality of calendar sync and pricing sync, you can't do that. So I think
I see.
that's essential. If we consider that an automation, right? We kind of like
Yeah.
overlook it, I think, but I would say it's an automation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's super important. As you say, some people kind of overlook it, and it's kind of a standard, but it is such
Yeah.
an important standard kind of requirement for sure.
Right.
Sweet. So thinking a bit more about, I guess, where you host. So obviously, coastal market. I imagine pretty seasonal. So how are you keeping up occupancy during those shoulder seasons as well?
Oh yeah. I have a saying that I love that you make the money in the off season. And what I mean is anyone can make money. Seaside Heights is 4 blocks wide. It's a little barrier island off in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can make money with a house 1 to 4 blocks from the beach in the summer. But in the off season is when you have to work for it. That's when you're going to make your money. Um, Pricing properly in the off season is very important. Um, I might give away my secrets too much, so I hope too many people aren't listening. But you really need to. There's a market there. There's a market anywhere. I think you have to find it. I think many people are scared to vary their prices too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have last year we had a house that rented as high as $1,700 for a single night in the summer on July 3rd to $200 a night in the winter. So that's some extreme variance, but that
Wow.
allows us on an annual basis to make the problem very profitable. Um, the other thing we do too is it's a semi midterm strategy. And when I say midterm, I consider midterm 2 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't love diving into the 60 to 90 days as much, but you can use a lot of pricing tricks where the pricing is a certain price if they book for the weekend, but it's another price if they book for 2 weeks, which that 2 week price is much more attractive on a per night basis.
Yeah.
And you're still going to net way more because you weren't going to book Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday anyway. And those people are usually traveling for work. They're usually traveling to see family. They're usually pretty low maintenance guests. A lot of times they're repeat guests. They will come back every year. They visit the area because they grew up in the area or they work in the area
Mm-hmm.
frequently. So that's my little off-season secret. And that there's ways to do it. If you're coming just for the weekend, you're going to pay 150 a night. But if you're going to stay for 2 weeks, you're going to pay $100 a night. So we really deploy that heavily. We want those 2 to 4 week stays.
Nice, love it. And then just kind of thinking about the experience of the stay. And I don't know much about your properties per se, so maybe you can tell us a bit more about, I guess, the kind of target audience you're going for. But would love to also kind of understand from your perspective some of the maybe the amenities or design adjustments and upgrades that you've made that have maybe had quite a high impact on your booking rate and reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so, we have about 1,200 reviews on Airbnb,
Mm,
4.98 rating, which I think is pretty good.
nice.
So the top two things that people comment on is the cleanliness and the communication. But as far as amenities go, I'm huge on guest experience. I always say like I can't tell you how many $1 million beach houses I've been in where they don't have blackout curtains. I'm like, the
Mm,
sun comes up right there. People want to sleep on vacation. These things just get super overlooked all the time. And when you're designing these houses, you just need to be thinking about how they're going to feel. It's not transactional like typical real estate, like how much can this rent for? So when we bring on new clients, we try to instill this mindset into them because we need that to be successful. So we need our clients' support there. So it's just a combination of, I'm big on the bedroom amenities, the blackout curtains. Every bed should have proper number of pillows, which is 4 pillows. Just think about what hotels have. Every bedroom should have 2 nightstands on a queen or a king bed, if it can fit it. Should have a lamp.
mhm.
You should have somewhere to plug your phone in because no one wants to be looking for somewhere to plug their phone in, having to move furniture around.
Yeah.
I'm big on white noise machines because people want to control the comfort. If you're from a rural area and you're vacationing in a noisy area, you might not be used to the sound. So you're just in a different place that's not familiar. The white noise is soothing to people. It helps them sleep. And again, they're happier. They have a better experience. So amenities are huge. Another thing I'm huge on is check-in experience. Check-in experience needs to be good. The door lock needs to work. They need to get in smoothly. There needs to be a lit entryway. The air conditioning needs to be on. So those are the two big things: sleeping comfort, the check-in experience. If they have a bad check-in experience, they will start finding everything else that they don't like. So, start off on a good note, do yourself a favor, and then it's really hard to screw it up from there. If they walk in and they're expecting 5 stars, and then as soon as they walk in, it smells good, it's the air conditioning's on, now they're at 10 stars, right? Like, you really have to screw something up for it to go below 5 stars. So you already won the battle there.
Nice. And you mentioned kind of access to the property. I assume you're using smart locks as well there?
Yeah. So we use Hospitable smart locks software,
Nice.
and I started using that from the beginning. The Schlage is our go-to, the Schlage and Code. I've used the Yale. Just the Schlage, I know better. You troubleshoot 40 of them. You know exactly every problem, everything that can go wrong with them, how to fix them, how to reprogram them. So I'm pretty familiar with those. I love how we can change the code for each guest automatically. It's super quick. Someone can book. I've had people book from right outside the house. I don't know if it's a thing. People will find the house to make sure it's like somehow in Airbnb, people do manage to find the house and book it from right outside, and they'll be in the house within 5 minutes. It works right away if a reservation's canceled. So we sell it to our clients from a security standpoint. Hey, you don't want anyone having access to your beach house. And just, the door codes work pretty much all the time, and if they don't work, it's usually not an integration issue. It's pretty robust, and just make sure they have clear instructions on how to get in, that they're good with it. If they do have a problem getting in, I always say we need 3 ways to get into a house, right? Batteries die, lock goes bad. Those Schlage locks, especially around the beach, we have had them get moisture inside, I guess, through the keyhole. It'll, fry the units in there. It has happened before. So I always say, make sure there's 3 ways to get into a house. Make sure there's a lockbox with a key somewhere, and make sure your team has that information readily available. And if someone messages that they're locked out, I don't like those messages sitting more than a minute, because there's nothing more frustrating than traveling all day and not being able to get in. Normally, it's typically user error, but we still want to make sure we help them get inside.
Yeah, of course. That makes sense. So kind of switching back to, I guess, that process of scaling that you've gone through. So obviously you talked about, you and your co-founder both getting your own short-term rental properties to kind of learn on the job, per se. How did you find that kind of scaling process? And did you find that you kind of had to have a bit of a mindset shift as you went from, 1 to 3 properties to 10 plus to 50 plus?
Yeah. I think 1 to 10 is hard. 10 to 50 is just as hard, right? 50 to 100 is probably just as much work, right? If you can do something across 10 properties, you can do it. Then it's like the next level of problems, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty hands-on guy. I've done every role in my company. I've done maintenance. I've been there with the cleaners, managing the cleaners. I've done messaging. I've done, the phone calls. I've done everything. So, I'm a big advocate of, really knowing how to do something myself before, training someone else to do it. But just building out those systems, I always think, how can I make this a repeatable process, a trainable process? How do I make sure these things don't get missed? But that's just always been, you learn just as you go. We really didn't know at all. Like, we tried a bunch of different softwares. It's just a lot of trial and error, seeing what works. But you just have to have that that mindset of, how do I make this easier? How do I make this more scalable? Things that used to take us and that we used to stress out about in the beginning, I don't even bat an eye at anymore, just because you've systematized it and you've solved that problem. So you just got to focus on solving bigger problems as you scale.
Nice, yeah, I like that. So I guess thinking about this from either perspective of a lender or a property manager, what's one mistake that you see either new property owners or property managers make that kind of slows down their growth?
I think people expect fast money, and I think it's not that. I think you have to be ready to work. You have to be ready to just grind, really just grind. Yeah. It's still a long play. It's still a long-term play. I know, again, I was in the long-term rental business during COVID. I hear everyone in the short-term industry made a lot of money during COVID. I hear it's not like that anymore. And that's my experience. It's just more of a balanced grind now. You buy the asset, you operate your hospitality business, you let the asset pay itself down, you let the asset appreciate. All those basic real estate investing principles apply. I see people expecting quick fix cash flow, which I don't think you're just, maybe there's markets that you can turn those high returns. Where I'm at, it's pretty balanced. It's very seasonal. You make what you can in the season, and then, in the off season, you also do what you can. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that people overlook.
Sweet. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. I think one final question would be, where do people go to learn more if they want to connect with you, maybe start a financing conversation, maybe start a conversation with Breezy Beach Stays about property management? Where can they go to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. Check us out. Our website is breezybeachstays.com. We have Instagram, same handle, Breezy Beach Stays. TikTok, we post a lot. We post educational content. We post vacation content. We're kind of trying to find our groove there. You can message me on Instagram or TikTok. My handle is Pizza and Real Estate. It's easy to remember. Nice. I'm making a resolution to start posting on TikTok more, just the stuff that I encounter daily. Sometimes people find it interesting. Maybe they don't, but they can watch or not watch. So, you can follow me on there or on the Breezy pages and hit us up if you want to come down and visit, or if you just want to chat. I'm always open to learning from new people, from different people, and just, trying to scale. I'm learning as well. I'm pretty new. So, still trying to figure things out.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Miles. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode with Mike Anderson, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.